Hey everyone, let's talk about how scammers and hackers try to trick you. Okay, so what a scammer or a hacker wants is to get your Bitcoin. Obviously, that's what they want. Just like every robber, burglar, or a thief wants to get a hold of your money or your valuables. So scammers and hackers, in this context, want your Bitcoin. So the problem is they can't get it without your help. Normally, they just can't get your Bitcoin because they need passwords. They need two-factor authentication codes that will be sent to your phone. They need two-factor authentication codes that are in Google Authenticator or something like that. So the hacker or the scammer, they want your Bitcoin, but they need your help. They need to scam you in order to get that Bitcoin. So what do? Okay, so typically they will call you. Sometimes they will text you or, send a message on WhatsApp or, Facebook Messenger. But typically they will call you. The reason they call you is they need you to be knocked off balance, mentally, and they need to control the conversation and they need to control your attention span. So they prefer to use the phone because it eats up your attention. And if they send you a message, then they risk you showing that message to someone else and saying, hey, does this look legit? And the person's going to say no. But if they have you live on the phone, your ability to relay that the conversation doesn't seem right to other people is much more limited. So they prefer to do it by phone. Okay, so the person calls you up by phone, and typically they will either pose as a technical support representative from Coinbase or from Google. Here's why they choose those. In the case of email, Google is the largest provider. And in the case of Bitcoin, Coinbase is the largest provider. So there's nothing that makes either of those companies more susceptible to scams or hacks. They're just the most used companies. And so the likelihood that they could scam somebody by pretending to be that entity makes more sense. So the reason they don't pose as Yahoo or Hotmail is because you would just say, well, I have a Gmail address. That doesn't apply to me. Or the reason they don't pose as River or Swan or Strike is because those services are used much less frequently. And so if they called you up and said, hey, your River account has been hacked, you would probably say, I don't have a River account. And then the scam or the hack wouldn't work. By comparison, if they call you up and say your Coinbase account has been hacked, well, there's more than 100 million people have Coinbase accounts, so the likelihood that you will say, oh no, I actually do have a Coinbase account is higher. Okay, so they're almost always going to pose as a technical support representative or someone from the fraud department from either Coinbase or Google. But it could be other things. I've gotten scam calls from PayPal before, but it's typically one of those. Okay, so what do? So they are going to tell you either that they're concerned that your account has been compromised or that there's been fraudulent activity on your account. The reason they tell you that is in both cases, they need you to take an action. They need you to take an action that compromises your account, and you are more likely to take the action that compromises your account if you are scared. And the best way for them to scare you is to make you believe that your accounts are, that your money is in danger. And so they call you up and they say, hey, your Coinbase account has been compromised, and then they'll tell you that they have a solution. They always have a solution. The solution is you need to log in and move the funds to another account, or that you just need to log in and click some button or something like that. Now, they do not want you to log into Coinbase.com. They do not want you to log in to your mobile app on your phone because that does not give them access to your money. So what they will typically do is they will send you a link to log in. And instead of Coinbase.com, it'll be some sort of crazy link. It might include the word Coinbase in it, but it'll be like Coinbase.RussianHackerLeague.com. Obviously, it's not going to say Russian Hacker League. It's going to say something that sounds legit, but it's usually going to be a sort of a weird, wonky URL. But it's going to look like Coinbase. But they're going to want you to log in on the link they send you. And the reason they are sending you a link is because they want you to enter your username and password at a special link that is not the real Coinbase. And of course, as soon as you enter that username and password, they are going to capture it, and then they are going to turn around and log into the real Coinbase with your username and password to try to drain your account and take all your money. So the other thing they need is a two-factor authentication code. Now, part of the reason that people pose as a Google technical support rep is because if they can compromise your Google account, then if you are using the Google Authenticator app for two-factor authentication, then they can, most people have that set where they can get the two-factor authentication codes for Google from a compromised account. So their view is, hey, if we can compromise a Google account, there's a chance that your Coinbase account password is saved in Google, and there's a chance that you're using Google Authenticator for two-factor authentication, which means if they can compromise your Google account, they can potentially compromise all of those things all at one time, which is, of course, what they're trying to do. So anyway, so that's what they'll do. What they need from you is your password and your two-factor authentication code. Now, typically they will already have your email address. And the reason for that is there's been so many data hacks and data breaches from all different companies all over the world that you can buy online massive databases of basically everybody's email address in the world. And so hackers know that, and so they go do that. So typically they'll already have the person's email address, and sometimes they will use that to try to build trust with you. They'll say, now, is the email address you have tied to you, I just need to confirm that the email address you have tied to your Coinbase account is this email address, and they'll give you one that they think is your email address. And of course, if it is, you're more likely to trust them because you think, well, the only way they would have known that is if they actually had access to my account. The truth is, no, they got that off of a data hack for one of the, credit, service agencies or something like that. There's a million ways they can get email addresses from data leaks and data hacks from, every department store under the sun and who knows what. So anyway, so the important thing to think, or to remember is the fact that they already know your email address doesn't tell you anything, and they need your password and your two-factor authentication code. They can get that by either you telling it to them, which you're less likely to do because that, triggers alarm bells that something's not right. So that's why they typically try to get you to log in with your username and two-factor authentication code at a fake website they set up. That way they can get access to it. You think you're logging into a legitimate website because they've, copy pasted stuff off the Coinbase website to make it look legit. And then they capture your username and password on the back end. And so that's why, again, if anybody ever, asks you to log into Coinbase, there's no reason to ever click a link they send you or open an attachment they send you. You can always just open the mobile app on your phone and bypass the shenanigans of what they're trying to do. But again, they'll always try to keep you on the phone the whole time. So typically they will always be talking to you. They will never let a down moment go by because they don't want you to mute the phone and then ask a loved one if something seems right or wrong about this whole thing. So they need to keep you talking and they need to keep you mentally engaged so that you're not thinking clearly. And they'll typically say, okay, now in order to, finish securing your account, I'm going to go ahead and generate a two-factor authentication code. I just need you to read me that code. Now the code will come in and the code will say, do not share this with anyone. That's what it's going to say when the code comes in. But of course, if they're talking and they're smooth enough on the phone, they can keep you talking so you're not paying attention to that, so that when the code comes in, you just read them the code without reading the words that say, don't share this with anybody. Or at this point, they hope that they've established enough rapport with you that, you're not going to realize that it's a scam. So anyway, that is how they work. I will cover a few more things in just a minute, but give me 1 second here to get past another person out walking. Good evening. Good. Okay, I'm back. So anyway, so the important thing is, remember, be very suspicious if anybody calls you. There's no reason any of these companies are going to call you out of the blue. Second, don't ever click any links they send you because there's no reason for you to click links they send you or to enter your password at any link they send you. That is dangerous. Third, almost never, even if the caller ID, and the caller ID of scammers I've gotten, the only ones I've had them where they've spoofed the name is Wells Fargo. So I have gotten calls that said they were from Wells Fargo that were obviously scams. I've never gotten a call from something where it said it was Coinbase or said it was Google, but it's not that hard to do for them to make the caller ID show up as Google or Coinbase. So, again, be suspicious. But anyway, so the easy solution to all of this is don't click any links. If somebody calls claiming they're from Google or Coinbase, just hang up. There's no reason for you to go down that road. If there's an official alert, you'll get an email. And if you get an email, you can verify. I've shown before how you can verify whether the links are legitimate, and you should not be clicking any links in any emails anyway, regardless of who they say they're from. And if you're ever not sure, you can always forward the email to me, Joel@joelbaumgar.com. That's Joel@JoelBomgar.com. So that email address again is joel@joelbaumgar.com. I'm happy to look through the links on any email and tell you if it's legitimate or not. Always happy to do that. And lastly, I'll say the easy solution to all of this is get yourself a BitKey. So the beauty of a BitKey is none of these scams and none of these hacks work on a BitKey, because in order to move your Bitcoin, you've got to put your fingerprint on it and you got to hold it to the back of your phone. And when you take those two actions, it's very clear that you are moving Bitcoin, that the Bitcoin is leaving your account and you are moving it to another account. And it is way, way, way harder for a scammer to get you to do that than it is for them to get you to accidentally give up your login credentials and let them do that on the back end without you realizing what they're doing. So the easy solution is BitKey. If you're not quite ready for a little hardware device with a fingerprint reader on it, which is super simple to set up. It's the mobile app on your phone, guides you through everything. And literally the only thing this little BitKey device does is it has a secret key on it, and it's got a fingerprint reader on it. But if you're not ready for that, that's why the video I recorded immediately prior to this one recommended the Coinbase Vault feature. Because on the Coinbase Vault feature, if a hacker or a scammer somehow gets access to your account, then Coinbase is going to start emailing you saying, hey, I just want to make sure you are trying to move money, Bitcoin, from your vault to your main account. And you're going to think, wait a second, I didn't do that. And you just click a button that cancels it. So with Coinbase Vault, it creates a 48-hour waiting period. So you have 2 full days to realize that something's wrong and something's gone wrong. And the hackers or scammers can't get access to that for 48 hours. And they can't get access to it unless that transaction is approved by 2 different email addresses. And it's nearly impossible to get them to do that, because now the scammer or the hacker has to talk you into approving that transaction to get the Bitcoin out of the vault. They have to get you to approve that on 2 different email addresses, and they have to wait 48 hours. And at any time in that 48 hours that you think, uh-oh, something's not right, I think I got scammed, you just go cancel it, and they don't get the Bitcoin. So the hacker or a scammer's worst nightmare is BitKey. BitKey is their worst nightmare because it creates the least probability they will ever get their hands on your Bitcoin. The second best option, if you're not quite ready for BitKey, is Coinbase Vault. Just move between 70% and 90% of your Bitcoin over to Coinbase Vault. Just remember that any Bitcoin that you're planning to use with a Coinbase debit card has to be in your primary balance. You can't use the debit card with funds that are in the vault because there's a 48-hour waiting period. And obviously you can't spend money that has a 48-hour waiting period without waiting 48 hours. That is how that works. So that's how scammers have boarded to Bitcoin. To my knowledge, nobody that has onboarded to Bitcoin as a result of my efforts has fallen for any of that. And I just want to make sure that stays the case, and that we don't lose it, and that nobody loses so much as one tiny Satoshi. And the best way to do that is just to stay very vigilant, understand that there are hackers and scammers everywhere, and this video is a good way to spot them and understand how they operate and make sure you don't fall for it. So have a great night, everyone. Thanks.